Steven, you have some new draft rankings out, so let's sink our teeth into them and give me the player who's fallen the furthest down your list since the last time we talked about this.
Well, first off, your Mark Stone LTIR joke for Team Canada was actually like hilarious. So I've already received a couple messages of people thinking that was hilarious. The one I'm going here is out of Switzerland, Denis Ynov, which I know when you look at the name, it looks like it says stinky. This is a guy that I think when I was talking to some scouts at the U18s last year, thought of as a potential top 15 player, kind of like David Reinbacher. He was playing against men pretty early in his career. And that was pretty impressive to see what he's able to do. But this year, he just hasn't looked necessarily comfortable playing in the National League this year. He's had to kind of bounce around different levels. Internationally, I think he's been okay. I saw him at the World Juniors, didn't like him at all. Saw him at the U18 Five Nations. He was good. This is a guy that, has had a lot of pressure put on him early because a lot of people looked at Switzerland as this 06 group being really competitive, and they haven't been. And part of it, I think, is because Ynov has not really taken his game to another level. It feels like he hasn't really developed a whole lot over the last year, where he was one of the best players at that U18 tournament. He was playing over 20 minutes a night. He was blocking shots, hitting, creating offense. This year, it just looks like he's just a little just almost too relaxed, and he's not pushing the boundaries there to see what he could do. So I had him as a potential first round pick. Now I have him going at the very end of the second round. So I'm definitely falling on him, which is unfortunate because I really did like him early on.
Yeah, well, it only takes one guy to like him, so we will definitely keep an eye on him as we go towards the draft. And look, I think we focus a lot on round one, Steven, but your job is to look a lot deeper than round one. So I'm just wondering, in this year's draft, which has kind of been talked about as not a deep draft, is there a Braden Point or a Brad Marchand, someone you can scoop up in the second or third round that comes out, and starts putting together a Hall of Fame type of career?
Well, I wouldn't say Hall of Fame, but one guy that I'm keeping an eye on here is Igor Surin out of Yaroslavl in Russia. You see the numbers here, very impressive numbers playing against junior level players. He's got limited skill. It seems like he could just do whatever you want. Like when you look at what Demidov's doing out there as the top Russian-born prospect, a top 5 prospect this year, I'd say the closest player in terms of pure skill is Surin, but I've kept him low in my rankings, and some guys have kept him even lower because he will just frustrate you with some dumb penalties. Like I don't know his penalty total, but I think he's on pace for like 100 penalty minutes this season. He can get caught being a little bit too lazy there at points, and just like, what he could do, and there's points where the puck's near him, and instead of rushing for it, he's kind of just standing there waiting for the pass, and that doesn't work often. So this is a guy that if you get somebody to really kind of just push him, like, hey, like you've got to bring this grinder mentality to the game out there because we know you're talented, but you don't put the effort in. If he could find out how to put that effort in, this is a guy that we could look at in a redraft top 15 player one day. But I like him. He's got some size. He can get nasty out there. He can put pucks in the net. He's just got to do it on a consistent basis.
Well, there's also a defenseman in your rankings that is making some serious noise right now. I think this is a guy that you were excited to talk to us about today.
Yeah, and that's Zane Parekh. And I can't remember the exact number of points right now, but I think he's like, the season's almost over. He's on pace for just under 100 points, 35 goals. He's a defenseman. Like, this is, when I think of some of the best offensive defensemen out of the OHL the last couple of years, you look at Minchikov, who played on Saginaw. You look at Jimmy Drysdale, Brant Clark, and Parech's up there. Just an incredible shot, so good with the puck. He's one of the biggest play drivers. And again, look at those numbers for a defenseman. That's impressive because you don't typically see that at a 20-year-old defenseman, let alone a guy who's draft eligible. So I'm a big fan of him. He's got the size. He's very mobile. I think the big concern for him is he's still a work in progress defensively. And it's become a huge trend the last couple of years where you see guys like Cale Makar and Quinn Hughes where they're so good for the puck. They're also very good defensively, and players are trying to emulate that, but they're missing the defensively part of it. A good example is Henry Muse out of the Ottawa 67s. He only started playing defense like 4 or 5 years ago. So he's still on the new side of playing defense. He was a forward. And if they can get him to kind of tone down his defensive play and focus a bit more on that, I think more people will be talking about him. But when you look at Parekh, I think the upside is here for him to be just an incredible player if he can wrangle in his own defensive zone play. I have him at number 11 because there are players that are a bit more polished right now than him. But in terms of the upside, I absolutely love this guy being a potential, redraft top 4, top 5, 5 years down the line.
Damn. We talked about diamonds in the rough in the draft, but also let's talk about some outside the draft. CHL free agents, players who are no longer draft eligible. You had an article up at Daily Faceoff with your top 10. Give us maybe 1 or 2 of your favorites.
Well, the one I really like is Hudson Thornton out of the Prince George Cougars, and he's the captain of this team. You look at the numbers, very good numbers. Nothing, crazy for a defenseman at 20 years old, but this is someone who I thought he should have been drafted in 2022, and then he wasn't picked again in 2023. And I know I'm not alone on that. There was a lot of people in the public scouting sphere that were really surprised because they see a lot of potential here. I think the biggest issue is he can be, as one scout told me recently, he could be a bit of a loose cannon out there of the puck where he's so skilled. And like Parekh, he's going to do something with it, but then he'll also just make the dumbest pass you've ever seen, or just make a complete brain fart out there, and you're wondering, okay, what just happened? So he's got to really refine his game. He looks like he's trying to panic too much when he doesn't need to, especially on a Prince George team that's got some good scoring options. I think that this is a guy that teams are going to have to take late in the or give a good shot at here, because I thought he should have been taken late in the draft last year. Instead, you don't have to worry about that. You can sign him as a free agent. I think there should be teams lining up for him because he's just got so much talent as a puck-moving defenseman that he reminds me a little bit from a stylistic standpoint, kind of like a Sean Durzi, kind of like a Jordan Spence. Both guys went to LA eventually. So I do think that he's someone the team should be looking at. One other player I would like to mention, though, Samuel Mayer out of the Ottawa 67s. Really good size. He can get nasty. He hits hard. He's kind of a player you could throw in that third pairing defense and be pretty happy with it. So when it comes to these CHL free agents, you're usually looking at depth guys at best, but you still need to be drafted. You still need to be looking at these guys. You still need to be scouting these guys. And I think this year it's a pretty good crop.
There you go. The next wave delivered by DoorDash. Mr. Ellis, fantastic stuff as always. Have a good weekend.
Thanks so much.
What's up, hockey fans? If you enjoyed that video, then you need to be hitting the subscribe button right here at Daily Faceoff. Exclusive interviews and analysis from our hockey insider Frank Saravalli, fantasy updates from Brock Sagan, and a daily live show at noon Eastern, Monday through Friday. You don't want to miss any of the fantastic content, so hit that subscribe button.